Hello, everyone. Welcome to our virtual meeting. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend this presentation and provide your feedback. Let's get started. So shown on this screen is the agenda for our presentation. We're going to start by walking through the project history, share how the Orange Line became the project it is today. Then we'll talk through the environmental review process, which includes a discussion of the project's purpose and need, the alternatives that we will carry forward, the resources we will study, and what you can expect for participation opportunities throughout the life of the project. All right, let's get started with project history. So Capital Metro began development of the Project Connect Vision Plan in 2016. In December 2018, the Capital Metro Board of Directors approved the Project Connect Vision Plan, which identified corridors for potential investment in high capacity transit, or HCT. In 2019, the Austin City Council approved the Austin Strategic Mobility Plan, which established a policy goal to quadruple the share of commuters who use transit to get to work to achieve a 50-50 mode split by 2039. The Project Connect Vision Plan is included as an important part of the Austin Strategic Mobility Plan, or ASMP, and both initiatives provide a way forward for addressing the current and future mobility challenges that the region faces. Mobility challenges are particularly driven by historic and future population growth, which, as you can see, the Austin population is projected to double by 2040. The Orange Line was identified as one of the dedicated pathway HCT corridors in this plan. The proposed Orange Line follows a 20-mile corridor currently served by Capital Metro's Metro Rapid Route 801 and extends from Tech Ridge Park and Ride in the northern part of the corridor to just north of Slaughter Lane on the southern end of the corridor, traveling along Lamar Boulevard and Congress Avenue. The Orange Line would serve as a spine of the regional HCT network and provide faster, more reliable transit connections. So in 2019 and 2020, Capital Metro conducted an alternatives analysis, or AA process, for the Orange Line corridor. The AA process used a phased approach and tiered screening process through which alternatives were both defined, evaluated, and then refined or eliminated in each step. The AA provided information to decision makers and the public that helped the community evaluate costs, benefits, and ultimately develop a locally preferred alternative, or LPA, that would most effectively maximize the transit investment in the Orange Line corridor. The LPA selection is represented by a combination of mode, transitway, and alignment choices that, when combined with the purpose and need of the project, is financially feasible and has strong local support. So the LPA for the Orange Line is defined as light rail transit, or LRT, operating in a dedicated transitway from Tech Ridge Park and Ride in the northern end of the corridor to just north of Slaughter Lane on the southern end of the corridor. 22 stations are proposed along the route. The placement of these facilities will be coordinated with the community. Service would operate about every 10 to 15 minutes. The Orange Line would feature off-board fare collection, larger stations with level boarding, Americans with Disabilities Act or ADA accessibility, and intersection signal prioritization to allow trains to move faster. It would also provide significant travel time savings over the car in rush hour. For example, the Orange Line would allow someone to reach Republic Square from Tech Ridge in about half the time compared to peak rush hour travel in a car. Additionally, it would provide environmental benefits through a reduction in vehicle miles traveled and a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. The LPA was unanimously adopted by the Capital Metro Board of Directors and endorsed by Austin City Council on June 10, 2020. In November of 2020, the City of Austin voters approved an 8.75-cent tax rate increase to help fund the next phase of implementation for the system plan. This enables the Orange Line LPA to move into the next phase of development as the Orange Line project. So now that we've talked through how the Orange Line became the project it is today, we'd like to talk about what's happening now on the project and what will be happening over the next few years. For this, I'll hand it over to Jerry.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. So Capital Metro is now going to begin the development of an environmental document called an Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. And that document's done in accordance with the National Environmental Policy Act guidelines and other regulatory requirements. The graphic you see now is designed to represent the entire project lifecycle with a focus on the phase we're right now, indicated by that shaded box. After the environmental phase is complete, the project can move into final design and then construction and eventually testing and operation. For now, we'll focus on the current phase of development for the Orange Line project, that is the development of the EIS, which is also commonly referred to as the NEPA phase. And this is the phase that we're going to focus on for the rest of this presentation. Following the NEPA process helps us learn more and better define the project. It allows the community to understand the project and guide development, and it also ensures that Capital Metro fulfills the requirements necessary to receive federal funding. The NEPA process can be broken down into 3 distinct steps as shown here. And these steps include scoping, the development of the draft environmental impact statement, or the DEIS, and then the development of the final environmental impact statement, or EIS. An important part of the scoping step and the purpose of this series of scoping meetings is to provide information to the community about the Orange Line to establish an early and open process for obtaining public and agency input. We'll share information about the project and ask you for your feedback, both immediately as part of this presentation and later through multiple comment submission options. There's also a concurrent agency scoping process that allows our partners and other transportation agencies like the City of Austin and Texas Department of Transportation and others to coordinate and participate in the project scoping step. Following the conclusion of the scoping phase, Capital Metro will begin working on the draft environmental impact statement to more fully assess the potential benefits and impacts of the project. The DEIS will describe the purpose and need for the Orange Line project, describe the alternatives considered, describe the affected environment, and describe the environmental consequences of the project. Public and stakeholder input is critical throughout the development of the DEIS, and Capital Metro will bring information to you, the community, and request feedback at regular intervals over the next several years. Unless new information is brought forward through the 30-day public and agency comment period of the DEIS, the Federal Transit Administration intends to issue a combined environmental impact statement and record of decision. The combined final EIS ROD will respond to comments received on the DEIS and state the proposed action, environmental findings, and mitigation requirement. This document will be publicly available for review and comment. So now that we've talked about the NEPA process overall, let's talk in a little bit more detail about some of the key decisions that are made early in the NEPA process. A key part of the early NEPA process is to establish purpose and need, goals, and objectives for the project. The purpose, need, goals, and objectives are used to guide the decision-making throughout the NEPA phase. And the project purpose is a summary statement that answers the question, why is Capital Metro proposing the Orange Line project? The purpose of the Orange Line project is to meet growing corridor travel demand with a reliable, safe, cost-effective, time-competitive, state-of-the-art, high-capacity transit option that's congestion-proof. The project needs statements answers the question, what problems are Capital Metro trying to solve with the proposed Orange Line project? The project needs statements demonstrate the specific outcomes associated with the Orange Line project, and these include sustainability support, to sustainably support Austin's population and economic growth, support growth and connectivity to activity centers, provide better transit options linking affordable housing and jobs, and increase transportation network capacity to meet increasing travel demand. The goals and objectives for the Orange Line are based on the goals established for the Project Connect Vision Plan and for the project's purpose and need. The goals are high level and mirror the project's needs and the objectives described on how we will meet each goal, and these include customer experience, which means basically the project should increase efficiency, attractiveness, and utilization of high-capacity transit service within the corridor. Reliability, and that means that the project should provide frequent, reliable, high-capacity transit service along a dedicated transitway within the corridor. Sustainability which means the project should contribute to a socially and environmentally sustainable transit network. Land use and policy means that the project should support compact and connected land use with development patterns. Implementation and operations. The project should be community supported investment. And lastly, equity, which means that the project should be an inclusive transit investment that benefits disadvantaged communities and identifies strategies to mitigate displacement. Another early aspect of the NEPA process is to establish alternatives that will be carried forward throughout the environmental study. Let's talk about that over the next few slides. Throughout the NEPA phase, Capital Metro will study two distinct alternatives in addition to studying the build alternative, which would construct a light rail line in a dedicated transit way. So we will study a no build or do nothing or no action alternative. And the no action alternative, which includes local bus operating at the street level and in mixed traffic throughout the entire corridor, provides the baseline against which we will evaluate the impacts and benefits of the light rail alternative. And we use it as a way to determine the relative impacts, both positive and negative, of implementation of the build alternative. And the build alternative is the proposed Orange Line project we've described throughout the previous slides, which would add light rail line in a dedicated transit way to the corridor. To ensure build alternative has dedicated transit way, the vertical profile will vary. And by vertical profile, it's a technical term of where the transit way exists, either above, at, or below street level. We will look at build alternatives in more details on the next slide. This graphic shows the proposed build alternative in more detail. Each of the circles symbolizes a proposed Orange Line station where the Orange Line follows the ground plane line. The build alternative is at the street level. Where it arches above the ground plane line, the proposed station profile is above the street level or elevated. In some cases, this elevation would look like a bridge or go over other transportation infrastructure like I-35. In some cases, particular areas where space is limited, these elevated sections may be longer than a typical bridge. Where the Orange Line dips below the ground plane line, the proposed station profile is underground in a tunnel. The gray shading between Crestview and UT West Mall stations, between the Government Center and Republic Square stations, and in the areas of Auditorium Shore stations indicate that the station profile in these locations is still being determined. In addition to these areas, we will evaluate different logical termini to determine what parts of the project might be built first. Thanks for all your participation and hanging out with us so far. Next, I'm going to ask Melinda to walk through the environmental resources that we'll be studying as part of the NEPA process. Melinda?
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. The NEPA process will also evaluate potential effects to the human and natural environments under the alternatives. In the NEPA process, these areas of potential effects to the human and natural environments are referred to as resources. The environmental resources to be analyzed include all of the resources as shown on this slide. Some of these are self-explanatory, but some are a little less so, and I've picked a few here to talk through in more detail. Section 4F refers to the evaluation of impacts to publicly owned spaces like public parks and recreation areas, or publicly or privately owned historic sites. Environmental justice refers to the study of potential environmental, economic, and public health impacts on low-income, minority, and rural communities. Visual and aesthetic refers to the evaluation of how the project is seen by both users and neighbors. And noise and vibration refers to the evaluation of the noise and vibration caused by a transit system at nearby residences and other sensitive types of land use, and those are referred to as sensitive receptors. The NEPA process provides guidance on how to assess and mitigate all of the resources as shown on this slide. So we've talked a lot about the process, so now we're going to shift a little bit to talking about people. The NEPA process is specifically designed to facilitate coordination, review, and feedback between parties at all levels, from community members to the federal government. We'll start by reviewing the core team here. The Federal Transit Administration is the federal lead agency in the NEPA process. Capital Metro is the sponsoring agency, and the City of Austin is the participating agency and a critical project partner. The newly established independent organization called the Austin Transit Partnership is designed to guide the overall Project Connect investment and implementation after the NEPA process is complete. Now, the Orange Line project would function as a part of a local and regional transportation system. In coordination with transportation partners across the system has been and will continue to be critical to project development. The core Orange Line team will work with local, state, and federal regulatory agencies throughout the NEPA process to receive input on the purpose and need for the project, the development of design alternatives, methods to define impacts, and identification of the preferred alternative. On the next few slides, we'll share the different agencies that the Orange Line project has and will reach out to. The level of involvement for each will be determined as part of initial coordination. Locally, various City of Austin departments and school districts will be involved in the project. Regionally, regional transportation agencies like the CTRMA and CAMPO will also be part of the coordination. Statewide agencies like the TCEQ, TxDOT, and the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department will participate in the project. And per the Section 106 process for cultural resources, coordination with tribal nations will also be an aspect of project development. And finally, various federal agencies are anticipated to provide review and feedback for the project, including the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Federal Highway Administration, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Now, regarding collaborating with the community, since 2016, Project Connect's Community Advisory Committee has regularly met to receive updates on project development and provide feedback to the project team. This committee represents the community's diverse leadership in transportation, transit, affordability, accessibility, and more. The Orange Line project will continue to collaborate with these groups throughout the NEPA phase. In addition, the Orange Line project has multiple sub-corridor working groups to focus on specific areas of the project, and we have engaged with neighborhood groups, businesses, and nonprofit groups both generally and on specific aspects of the project. And of course, you, as members of this community, have a critical role in the project development process. Through December 2020, more than 77,000 people have engaged with us on Project Connect. You can read more about this engagement on our community engagement dashboard on projectconnect.com. Thank you so much for your participation in this presentation so far. And before we close out, we want to review all the different ways you can continue to learn more and provide feedback to the Orange Line project team. I'll turn this over to Kimmy now to review.
Thank you, Melinda. There are many options for sharing feedback and comments with the project team. Your feedback is critical now and throughout the project development to inform our engineering and environmental work. So please provide your input and share the information with others in your network so that they can also provide input. We will compile and consider input from this virtual meeting website and the live virtual meetings the week of January 25th, 2021, as we finalize the project's scoping step and move forward with the draft environmental impact statement development. Feedback received by the project team on or before March 5th, 2021 will be included in the official summary report for the scoping phase. To provide feedback to the team, you can visit the project website at www.projectconnect.com/get-involved to complete the community questionnaire and comment card. You can send us an email at orangeline@capmetro.org. You can call our project hotline right now or through March 5th, 2021 to leave a verbal comment. That number is 512-369-7703. Or finally, you can mail us your comment. The address is Orange Line Project Team at 607 Congress Avenue, Austin, Texas 78701. All of these options are posted on the project website at www.projectconnect.com/get-involved. Community input is a critical part of the project development process, and the Orange Line team will have new information to share with the community for feedback regularly throughout the next year. Stay up to date on Orange Line project development by planning a visit to our community office once it is safe to do so, joining our email list by visiting projectconnect.com and subscribing to the newsletter, liking us on Facebook at facebook.com/capitalmetro, following us on Twitter at capmetroatx, and checking projectconnect.com regularly for updates. Thank you again for your participation, and please look below this video to provide your feedback via the community survey and comment card, and to view other feedback options. We appreciate your feedback on or before March 5th, 2021. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day.